Now, as a kind of a lead-in to the work we have to do today, it occurred to me as Dr. Schöne was lecturing yesterday, I mean, you don't need me to tell you that he's a very learned man, and sometimes, you know, sometimes we feel like we're choosing, you know, between learnedness and real activity and stuff like that. When I was at the National Pastoral Conference of our German partner church in Berlin in June, and of course the paganizing of Germany is a real problem, just like the paganizing of Canada is a real problem, so that we can understand each other in that sense. But there are some very just thrilling things going on within their church in a number of locations, particularly in places like Leipzig and Braunschweig, or we would say Brunswick up in northern Germany, and in Berlin-Zehlendorf, where Dr. Schöne was pastor at the Congregation of St. Mary's for a long time. And that is how God is using these congregations as his instrument to bring about the conversion of Muslims to Christianity. And so you see, it's quite possible if you hear a learned person to think, okay, well, this person is good at dealing, you know, with books and lectures and stuff like this. But there's a great practical side, a great beating heart to the work that he did and the legacy that he left behind in this congregation, where he then got re-involved after he retired from being bishop and moved back to Berlin. Anyway, we're willing to pay him overtime at the normal Lutheran Church Canada volunteer rate to come forward now. And before today's lecture, I actually asked if he might say a few things about the kinds of things that are going on in this congregation and with Muslim converts. So would you come, Dr. Schöne, and do that? So this is not part of the lecture yet. I just want you to hear what's going on among these folks, at least briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. I tell you, it is a kind of a miracle which we experience in Berlin right now. It started out about 2 years ago or so with 1 or 2 refugees from Iran, from Persia, located at first in Leipzig and then later on somehow coming to Berlin. And I don't know how they found the door of St. Mary's Lutheran Church open, but they did. And they showed up in that worship service. And we are used to welcome foreigners coming in, and they were welcomed very cordially, had a warm welcome. And we invited them to come again. They came again. They were living in a home for asylum seekers, yeah? People who... asylum seekers. They, as soon as they come to Europe or to Germany, they are at first placed in a certain house or home, whatsoever, where they gather all these asylum seekers at first, and then it takes a long time before they finally come to a decision, which is always made in a law court. And the judge has to be convinced that there are good reasons for them to take refuge in Germany. Otherwise, they are sent home to their country where they came from. So these people came, and then they asked the pastor, we would like to become Christians. Can you teach us? He didn't speak a word of their native language, Farsi. But they found someone who could translate. And so they got some baptismal instruction classes in which they were taught in the Christian doctrine and Christian faith, and then they confessed their faith. And we thought at the beginning, well, that's it. 2 people, maybe 3 people, maybe 4 people. I tell you, it's now more than 300. More than 300. And it is a mouth-to-mouth propaganda, so to say. They are inviting their friends. They are sometimes suffering very much from their fellow countrymen, living in a asylum home, yeah, they are all day long they are together with Muslims. And if they find out that some of them are going to become Christians, then there is a big controversy going on. Okay, they stand it, they do it, they come. We have a marvelous pastor who is doing an outstanding work, caring for these people, inviting them, welcoming them, teaching them, baptizing them, caring for their material needs as good as he can, and if they are called into the court for the decision of their asylum application, then he goes along with them, and he invites members of the congregation also to come along, because these meetings in the law court are open to the public. They need to be open to the public, of course. And so there are always sitting a couple of, well, 5, 10 people from the congregation in that hall or whatever it is in the law court. And that impresses usually the judge, the respective judge, very much. But then these people ask, are you really serious about your decision to become a Christian and so on? You know, these people are facing, when they were sent home, capital punishment. They lose their lives as being baptized and having renounced Islam. That means really something. Probably no one in this hall has ever faced such a situation in his life. And what amazes me most is that these people came now to the pastor and said, when we are baptized, in the baptismal formula, it says, I renounce the devil and all his works, right? They came and said, please add to this explicitly, we renounce Islam and all its false teaching. It is by their decision that they wanted to have that spoken out clearly. And so it is nowadays. And this pastor right now has again a class of 15 people, I think, going to be baptized. He had a baptism of another 14 3 weeks ago. So it is a constant flow of people moving in. And that's all mouth-by-mouth propaganda. It is that they feel accepted, that they feel freed from the pressure of the law which they found in Islam. Well, it was always that they had to do something to appear before Allah. And now they know what Christianity is and what Christian faith is and what justification by faith is. And that is for them an amazing experience.